Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to sift through history, looking for those hidden layers underneath the main story. And today, we're digging into something pretty atmospheric. The haunted sites of Virginia. You're talking early U.S. history, Virginia's ground zero, Jamestown, 1607, the first permanent English settlement.
Right.
Then the Revolution, and of course the huge bloody role it played in the Civil War.
Absolutely central.
And when you have that much history, centuries of really intense, often violent stuff packed into one place, well, you're bound to get some spooky side effects, right?
That's exactly what our sources suggest. Virginia isn't just old, it consistently comes up as one of the most haunted states, period.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's not just random stories. It seems tied to that long timeline,
Yeah.
but also the sheer concentration of conflict and, frankly, human misery in specific spots, early institutions, battlefields.
Right. So we've got sources talking about everything from like documented paranormal claims at museums all the way to these really persistent local legends.
Exactly. Urban legends, eyewitness accounts, historical records hinting at tragedy.
So our mission for this deep dive, let's unpack this stack of stories. Why does Virginia's history, the wars, the suffering in these institutions, these weird unsolved mysteries, why does it translate so directly into ghost stories?
It's like the ghost story itself becomes a kind of historical marker, for pain that wasn't maybe recorded elsewhere.
Okay, let's dive in. The biggest category, hands down, seems to be war, specifically the Civil War. Mass casualties, places turned into hospitals overnight.
Yeah, the suddenness and the scale of death and, well, fear. It seems to anchor these stories. Take the Exchange Hotel's Civil War Medical Museum in Gordonsville.
Ah, okay.
It was built in 1860, meant to be this nice hotel, a resort even.
Right. Not a hospital.
Definitely not. But by 1862, completely converted. A massive receiving hospital.
And the numbers involved, I saw those in the sources. They're just huge.
You really are. Over 70,000 sick and wounded soldiers came through that one building between 62 and 65.
70,000.
Sure.
Passed through one hotel. Wow. With like mid-19th century medicine.
Exactly. Think about the chaos, the suffering, and it leaves a mark. Over 700 people ended up buried just right there, on the ground surrounding the hotel.
Jeez.
So what visitors report now, it's usually not like one distinct ghost figure. It's more auditory stuff, faint sounds, moans, cries, footsteps when no one's there.
It's like the sound of that mass suffering just lingers.
Yeah, the echoes, anonymous pain.
Okay, so that's mass trauma. But then you have places where maybe the story gets more personal, like the Martha Washington Inn and Spa in Abingdon.
Also a Civil War hospital, interestingly enough. And it treated soldiers from both sides.
Oh, okay.
Of course, maybe it's another layer. But the stories there, they're very specific. Very personal tragedies seem to stick.
Like the Yankee Sweetheart.
Exactly. That's a classic one. A student nurse, she falls for a Union soldier she's caring for, plays the violin for him.
Oh.
But then, tragedy. They both die. Typhoid fever, not long after each other.
Oh.
And people claim they still hear faint violin music sometimes. Room 403, I think.
And wasn't there something about a horse, too?
Yeah, the phantom horse. Supposedly waited under a tree for its owner, who died in the hospital and then just vanished. It shows how that individual sorrow creates a really focused legend,
Yeah, a specific image people can latch onto.
And then for just raw battlefield trauma. Sailors Creek Battlefield State Park.
Right, this is late in the war, wasn't it? Really desperate fighting.
Just 72 hours before Lee surrendered at Appomattox. It was brutal, a last stand, essentially.
The sources said, what, like a quarter of Lee's remaining army was lost there? Killed or captured?
Yeah, devastating losses. And the Overton Hillsman farmhouse on the site instantly became a field hospital, just overrun.
And the physical evidence.
It's intense. Mass, unmarked graves all over. And the sources are specific. They'd say bloodstains still mark the wooden floors in that house from 1865.
Wow. Despite cleaning attempts, you mean?
Apparently. That kind of visceral reminder soaked into the building itself. It's potent fuel for ghost stories. The trauma isn't vague. It's tied to that specific violent event.
Okay, so war gives us that sudden, massive trauma. But what about suffering that's slower, drawn out, systemic?
Yeah. That brings us to the institutions. Places meant for care or confinement that became, well, sources of real terror and misery.
And this is where the ghost story feels less like battlefield echoes and more like a record of abuse.
Exactly. It's like a voice for those who didn't have one. St. Albans Sanatorium in Radford is, well, It's kind of the poster child for this. Double tragedy, really.
How so?
Well, the land itself saw a really nasty Civil War battle first. So violence was already there, in a way.
Okay.
But then it became this institution with a horrific track record. First, it was a boys' school, and apparently the culture was brutal. Bullying wasn't just tolerated. Sources say it was almost encouraged.
Seriously.
Yeah, led to documented student suicides. So that's the baseline before it even became a hospital.
That's grim already.
And then, in 1916, it opens as a psychiatric hospital.
Oh.
And the treatment, oh boy, based on the sources, patients were basically treated like lab rats.
What kind of treatments are we talking about?
The really archaic, awful stuff.
Mm.
Lobotomies, insulin-induced comas, crude electroshock therapy, things we consider torture now.
God, just decades of that.
Decades of systemic abuse, often on people society had already marginalized and sort of forgotten about.
Mm.
So when you hear St. Albans called most active paranormal site on the East Coast,
It makes a horrible kind of sense.
it does. The alleged hauntings aren't confused soldiers. They're the claimed spirits of victims of prolonged systemic cruelty, people who never got justice or even acknowledgement.
That idea really resonates when you look at Albans Sanatorium in Staunton.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The darkness there is tied directly, explicitly to the eugenics movement.
Yeah, this is a really disturbing piece of history. The guy who ran it, Dr. Joseph Desjardins.
He was a major proponent of eugenics, performed hundreds of forced sterilizations.
And the target.
Often people already on the margins. Sources point to African Americans, Native Americans, sterilized against their will, silenced.
Just horrific.
And the ghost stories there. Allegedly, it's the screams, the cries of those victims that are still heard. If ghosts are markers for unresolved pain, Desjardins is a chilling example. It points to history we really need to keep talking about.
Definitely. And even going further back to the colonial roots of this kind of confinement. The public jail in Colonial Williamsburg.
Right. Built way back in 1719. This wasn't about rehabilitation. It was purely about punishment and containment.
Who did they keep there?
Everyone from pirates, Blackbeard's crew were held there, apparently to just the town's poorest folks, debtors, anyone considered undesirable.
And the conditions?
Awful. Freezing cold, disease like typhus was rampant, zero sanitation. It was designed to be miserable.
So the hauntings there.
People report hearing screams, seeing shackles move on their own in the cells. It's a haunting tied not to one specific event, but just centuries of deliberate state-sanctioned suffering.
Okay, so we had the shock of war, the slow grind of institutional abuse. But then there are these other stories, the really unique ones. Unsolved mysteries, specific identities, or lack thereof. That's where it gets really weirdly fascinating, right?
Totally. And the most famous unsolved identity haunting in Virginia. It has to be the female stranger at Gadsby's Tavern in Alexandria.
Ah, yes. I know this one. From way back, like 1816.
That's the one. This young woman arrives at the inn with her husband. She's clearly wealthy, but she's very, very sick.
Okay.
And as she's dying, she makes everyone around her husband, doctor, the inn staff, swear this incredibly serious oath.
To never reveal who she was.
Exactly. Never reveal her name or her identity.
Yeah.
And they kept the promise. To this day, nobody knows who she was.
Wow.
She's buried nearby in St. Paul's Cemetery, and the gravestone just says female stranger.
And the ghost.
Haunts from 8, supposedly.
Yep.
Still there, maybe waiting. It's fascinating because the haunting isn't about violence. It's about a choice for complete anonymity, even in death.
And that mystery itself keeps the story alive.
Precisely. History hates an unsolved puzzle like that.
That's a great contrast to somewhere like Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, which is famous for its more known residents, right? Presidents, Jefferson Davis.
Yeah, lots of famous figures there. But the ghost stories that really stick, they tend to focus on either the really poignant or the totally bizarre.
Okay, poignant first.
There's a beautiful statue of a Newfoundland dog. It guards the grave of a little girl named Alice, who died young back in 1862.
Oh.
It's just a touching memorial. And sometimes visitors report seeing a little girl playing nearby, maybe with a ghostly dog. It's simple, sweet, like a memory preserved.
Okay, that's lovely. Now, the bizarre.
Ah, the Richmond Vampire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Linked to that W.W. Poole tomb.
That's the legend. It all stems from a train tunnel collapse in 1925 near the cemetery.
Right.
When rescuers were clearing the rubble, this figure emerged, covered in blood, clothes torn, skin apparently hanging off because of scalding steam.
Oh, God. Horrifying image.
Totally. And in the panic and confusion, people saw this terrifying figure emerge near the cemetery, near this specific tomb, and jump to conclusions.
Vampire.
Vampire disturbed from its crypt. even though the poor guy was quickly identified as a railroad fireman who'd been badly burned.
The story was just too good.
Too good, too macabre. The image stuck. People pointed out the tomb's initials looked like fangs, and boom, an urban legend is born. Completely fabricated from a real tragedy, but it endures.
That's wild. It shows how folklore gets made.
Absolutely. And then down near the coast, you get local legends tied to specific historical injustices, like at the Ferry Plantation House in Virginia Beach.
That place is supposed to have, what, like 11 ghosts?
Something like that, yeah. Including victims from an 1810 shipwreck nearby. Lots of layers.
But the main one people talk about is the Witch of Pungo, right?
Grace Sherwood, yes.
Right.
She's the centerpiece of that area's haunting lore. She was tried for witchcraft right near there.
And convicted?
Yes, in 1706.
Huh.
By trial by dunking. They dunked her in the Lynnhaven River. If she sank and drowned, she was innocent. If she floated...
She was guilty. Horrible logic.
One of the last actual witchcraft convictions in Virginia. She was an herbalist, a midwife, likely just an independent woman who made people uncomfortable.
So the legend is?
Her spirit, soaking wet, is seen rising from the river, especially on a full moon. It's a ghost story tied directly to persecution, to historical injustice against someone on the margins.
Okay, so when we pull all these threads together, the battlefields, the sanatoriums, the female stranger, Grace Sherwood, what's the pattern here? What are we seeing?
It really does look like a trauma map of Virginia's history, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The sources show the hauntings aren't random. They cluster
Where?
around places and times of intense specific trauma, either sudden massive loss like a battle,
Right.
or prolonged systemic misery like St. Albans or Desjardins, or these unresolved stories where someone was wronged or their identity lost like the female stranger or the Witch of Pungo. Often, the figures involved were anonymous, marginalized, silenced in the official record.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's important, too, for you listening to remember these places are often significant for other reasons, right? Beyond the ghost stories.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Take Bacon's Castle, for instance. People report weird spectral fireballs there.
Yeah.
But it's also the oldest brick house in the U.S. Hugely important historically.
Or Swannanoa Palace.
Beautiful place. Built 1912, modeled on the Villa Medici in Rome. Supposedly haunted by the owner's wife, Sally. But its architectural value is immense, hauntings aside.
So the key takeaway for you, the learner, is maybe this. Virginia's history is so incredibly rich and often so tragic that it almost guarantees this extra layer of narrative. Beyond the dates and facts in the textbook.
Yeah.
We've gone from witch trials to Civil War battles, seeing how conflict, cruelty, injustice, how they create this lasting lore, stories that just refuse to disappear.
And maybe the final thought is this. If knowledge comes from understanding, what does the persistence of these specific stories tell us? The ones tied to the anonymous, the tortured, the marginalized. What does that say about the parts of history we still haven't fully processed or reconciled? The ghost story, in that sense, really does become this marker, a flag for systemic pain that maybe the living are still grappling with.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. So next time you hear a local ghost story, maybe don't just ask who's haunting the place.
Ask why. Why did their history, their context, make them someone easily forgotten by the official accounts, maybe forcing them to stick around in legend instead?
A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Virginia's haunted past. We'll catch you next time.